Imagine a wound that bleeds but has no visible cut. This describes the invisible injury of ambiguous loss, a psychological wound that festers in the absence of definitive answers. It's a loss that lacks clarity, a grief that finds no closure. Families facing a missing loved one live in this agonizing limbo. They grapple with a profound sense of uncertainty, caught between hope and despair. Ambiguous loss is not a new phenomenon. Throughout history, families have endured the anguish of soldiers missing in action, children vanishing without a trace, or loved ones suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Yet, the emotional turmoil associated with this unique type of loss remained largely unexplored until the late 20th century. This changed with the groundbreaking work of Dr. Pauline Boss, a family therapist who dared to delve into the shadowy realm of ambiguous loss, giving a name to this silent suffering. Dr. Boss recognized that traditional models of grief failed to encompass the complexities of ambiguous loss. Conventional wisdom suggests that grieving follows a linear path, culminating in acceptance. However, this model crumbles when the object of grief is neither fully present nor entirely absent. Ambiguous loss defies the neat categories of life and death, leaving families stranded in a perpetual state of not knowing. This essay explores the intricacies of ambiguous loss, drawing upon Dr. Boss's pioneering work and real-life experiences of families grappling with this invisible wound. We will delve into the psychological and social implications of ambiguous loss, shedding light on the challenges, coping mechanisms, and paths to resilience in this often misunderstood form of grief.
Dr. Pauline Boss, a seasoned family therapist, found herself increasingly drawn to a recurring theme in her practice: families grappling with unresolved grief stemming from situations of unclear loss. These families were united by a common thread: the agonizing uncertainty surrounding the fate of a loved one. Whether it was a soldier missing in action, a child abducted without a trace, or a family member suffering from Alzheimer's disease, the lack of definitive answers created a unique form of emotional turmoil. Intrigued by this recurring pattern, I embarked on a journey to understand the psychological mechanisms underlying this specific type of grief. I recognized that traditional models of grief, focused on clear-cut loss and a linear path to acceptance, failed to capture the complexities of these families' experiences. Driven by a deep empathy for my clients and a thirst for knowledge, I began to formulate a new framework for understanding and addressing this unique form of loss. In 1977, I introduced the concept of ambiguous loss to the world. My groundbreaking work shed light on the psychological and emotional struggles of families grappling with situations where a loved one was physically absent but psychologically present, or physically present but psychologically absent. This revolutionary concept provided a language to describe the invisible wounds inflicted by ambiguous loss, paving the way for more effective therapeutic interventions and support systems.
Dr. Boss's research revealed that ambiguous loss manifests in two distinct, yet interconnected forms. The first type involves a physical absence with a lingering psychological presence. This encompasses situations where a loved one is missing, kidnapped, or a soldier is declared MIA. The physical absence is undeniable, yet the lack of confirmation about their fate keeps their psychological presence alive in the minds and hearts of their families. The second type of ambiguous loss involves a physical presence with a psychological absence. This is commonly observed in cases of dementia, severe mental illness, or traumatic brain injury. The loved one is physically present, but their cognitive and emotional connection to their family has diminished, creating a profound sense of loss and disconnect. Families in this situation grieve the loss of the person they once knew, while simultaneously navigating the complexities of caring for a loved one who is physically present but psychologically distant. Both types of ambiguous loss share a common thread: the agonizing uncertainty that prevents families from finding closure and moving forward in their grief. This uncertainty fuels a constant cycle of hope and despair, making it challenging to adapt to the changed reality and find ways to honor the ambiguous loss.
The families of missing persons live in a heart-wrenching paradox. Their loved one is physically absent, yet their presence lingers in every corner of their lives. Empty chairs at the dinner table, unanswered phone calls, and unfinished conversations become constant reminders of the void left behind. The missing person's belongings, photographs, and favorite places serve as tangible links to a life abruptly interrupted, fueling both cherished memories and agonizing questions. The lack of concrete information about the missing person's fate creates a breeding ground for imagination, both hopeful and dreadful. Families may cling to the hope of a reunion, imagining scenarios where their loved one is safe and will one day return. Conversely, they may be haunted by worst-case scenarios, their minds conjuring up images of suffering and loss. This constant oscillation between hope and despair can be emotionally exhausting, leaving families feeling trapped in a perpetual state of limbo. The psychological presence of the missing person extends beyond the immediate family, impacting friendships, work, and social interactions. Well-meaning friends and acquaintances may struggle to find the right words, often resorting to platitudes or avoidance, inadvertently deepening the family's sense of isolation. The ongoing uncertainty can make it challenging to engage in everyday activities, as the weight of the unknown constantly looms over their thoughts and emotions.
Section 5. A Sea of Uncertainty. Navigating the Emotional Labyrinth. Ambiguous loss thrusts families into a turbulent sea of emotions, where grief, anxiety, guilt, and anger swirl in unpredictable currents. The lack of definitive answers about the loved one's fate fuels a constant state of uncertainty, making it impossible to find solid ground on which to process their emotions. This emotional disorientation can be overwhelming, leaving families feeling lost and adrift. Guilt often surfaces as a prominent emotion in ambiguous loss. Families may grapple with feelings of responsibility for the loved one's disappearance, or question whether they could have done something differently to prevent the situation. In cases of dementia or mental illness, families may feel guilty for experiencing moments of frustration or resentment towards their loved one, despite their understanding of the illness's impact. These feelings of guilt can be particularly intense when there is a lack of closure, as families are left to grapple with their perceived shortcomings without the opportunity to make amends. The chronic uncertainty inherent in ambiguous loss also fuels anxiety and fear. Families may experience heightened vigilance, constantly scanning their surroundings for any sign of their missing loved one, or anxiously anticipating potential triggers that could worsen their loved one's condition. This constant state of alert can lead to exhaustion, emotional burnout, and difficulty concentrating on everyday tasks. The world can feel like a minefield of potential threats, making it challenging to find moments of peace and respite.
Section 6. The burden of not knowing. Impact on family dynamics. The ripple effects of ambiguous loss extend far beyond the individual, impacting the delicate balance of family dynamics. The constant strain of uncertainty and the emotional rollercoaster associated with ambiguous loss can create tension and conflict within families, as members struggle to cope with their own grief while simultaneously navigating the needs of others. Communication patterns within families often become strained under the weight of ambiguous loss. The fear of triggering painful emotions or saying the wrong thing can lead to avoidance of difficult conversations, resulting in a communication breakdown that further isolates family members. The lack of open dialogue can create misunderstandings, resentment, and a sense of disconnect, hindering the family's ability to support each other through their shared grief. Decision-making within families can also become fraught with challenges in the face of ambiguous loss. Disagreements may arise regarding how to handle the missing person's belongings, whether to maintain their room as it was, or how to commemorate their absence on special occasions. These decisions, often laden with emotional significance, can become battlegrounds for unresolved grief, leading to further conflict and tension within the family unit.
Section 7. Frozen in Time. The Challenge of Finding Closure. One of the most agonizing aspects of ambiguous loss is the absence of closure. The lack of definitive answers about the loved one's fate leaves families suspended in a state of perpetual waiting, unable to fully grieve or move forward in their lives.
The natural progression of grief, which typically involves acceptance and integration of the loss, becomes disrupted, leaving families feeling stuck and emotionally paralyzed. The absence of closure can manifest in a variety of ways. Families may find it difficult to make decisions about the missing person's belongings, fearing that discarding anything would be tantamount to giving up hope. They may struggle to engage in future planning as their lives remain on hold, tethered to the unresolved past. The inability to find closure can also impede the formation of new relationships, as the emotional energy required for connection remains consumed by the unresolved loss. The challenge of finding closure in ambiguous loss is further compounded by societal expectations surrounding grief.
Well-meaning friends and family members may encourage families to move on or offer platitudes such as time heals all wounds. While these sentiments may stem from a place of care, they often fail to acknowledge the unique nature of ambiguous loss, where the passage of time does not necessarily bring resolution or ease the pain of not knowing.
Hope's flickering flame, the power of meaning-making. Despite the profound challenges inherent in ambiguous loss, families demonstrate remarkable resilience and capacity for hope. This hope is not necessarily rooted in the expectation of a miraculous reunion or a definitive answer to the unknown. Instead, it stems from a deep-seated belief in the enduring power of love, connection, and the ability to find meaning amidst uncertainty. One of the most powerful ways families navigate ambiguous loss is through the process of meaning-making. This involves actively seeking ways to honor the memory of their loved one, celebrate their life, and find purpose in their absence. Meaning-making can take various forms, from creating rituals and traditions to commemorate the missing person, to establishing foundations or supporting causes that align with their values. Engaging in acts of service and compassion can also be a source of hope and healing in ambiguous loss. Families may find solace in volunteering for organizations that support other families facing similar challenges, channeling their grief into a force for good. By extending their empathy and support to others, they create a ripple effect of kindness and connection, reminding themselves that even in the face of profound loss, love and compassion can endure.
A ripple effect, societal implications of ambiguous loss. The impact of ambiguous loss extends far beyond the immediate family, carrying significant societal implications. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, the potential for ambiguous loss through global conflicts, migration, and environmental disasters continues to rise. Understanding the unique challenges associated with ambiguous loss is crucial for developing effective support systems and fostering empathy within communities. One of the most significant societal implications of ambiguous loss is the need for greater awareness and understanding of this unique form of grief. Traditional models of grief often fail to encompass the complexities of ambiguous loss, leading to misinterpretations and inadequate support for families grappling with this type of loss. Educating healthcare professionals, educators, and community leaders about the nuances of ambiguous loss is essential for creating a more informed and compassionate response to families in need. Another important societal implication is the need for specialized resources and support systems tailored to the specific needs of families facing ambiguous loss. Traditional grief counseling models may not adequately address the ongoing uncertainty and lack of closure inherent in ambiguous loss. Developing support groups, online forums, and therapeutic interventions specifically designed for ambiguous loss can provide families with a safe and understanding space to process their grief, share their experiences, and connect with others who truly understand their unique challenges.
Finding the path forward. Resources and support systems. Navigating the uncharted waters of ambiguous loss can feel isolating and overwhelming. However, families do not have to face this journey alone. A growing network of resources and support systems is available to provide guidance, understanding, and a sense of community for those grappling with the unique challenges of ambiguous loss.
Support groups specifically designed for families facing ambiguous loss offer a safe and validating space to connect with others who understand the complexities of this type of grief. Sharing experiences, coping strategies, and emotional support within a group setting can help families feel less alone, reduce feelings of isolation, and foster a sense of shared resilience. These groups often provide a platform for learning from others who have navigated similar challenges, offering valuable insights and practical tips for coping with the ongoing uncertainty. Online forums and virtual communities dedicated to ambiguous loss provide another avenue for connection and support. These platforms allow families to connect with others across geographical boundaries, expanding their support network and providing access to a wealth of information and resources. Online forums can be particularly helpful for families living in areas with limited access to in-person support groups, or for those who prefer the anonymity and convenience of online interaction.
Conclusion: living with the questions. Ambiguous loss presents a unique and often agonizing challenge, leaving families suspended in a state of perpetual uncertainty and unresolved grief. The absence of definitive answers about the fate of a loved one creates a profound sense of limbo, disrupting the natural progression of grief and making closure elusive. However, amidst the pain and uncertainty, families demonstrate remarkable resilience, finding ways to honor their loved ones, create meaning, and nurture hope. Dr. Pauline Boss's groundbreaking work on ambiguous loss has provided a crucial framework for understanding and addressing this often misunderstood form of grief. Her research has shed light on the psychological and emotional complexities of ambiguous loss, paving the way for more effective therapeutic interventions and support systems. As our world continues to grapple with increasing complexities and uncertainties, Dr. Boss's work remains profoundly relevant, offering valuable insights into the human capacity for resilience in the face of profound loss. Living with ambiguous loss is not about finding definitive answers or erasing the pain of the unknown. It is about learning to navigate the ongoing uncertainty, finding ways to honor the loved one's memory, and creating meaning in their absence. It is about embracing the enduring power of love, connection, and hope, even in the face of profound loss. It is about recognizing that while the questions may linger, the love and the memories remain, offering a source of solace and strength in the journey through ambiguous loss.